few months ago, I had the pleasure of being put onto a little book called Project Hail Mary. Now, I had no idea what this book was about. I was just told to give it a shot. This book recommendation was given to me by my girlfriend, who I knew had good taste towards books and wouldn't recommend me a shitty one. Now, let me tell you, going into this thing, I wasn't too convinced that I was going to love it. Actually, I didn't think I was even going to like it because it was a space science fiction book, and I knew from the past I wasn't too much into those stories, with the exception of, say, like Interstellar. Interstellar was an absolute banger. But holy shit, let me tell you, that puppy sucked me in. Project Hail Mary was absolutely exceptional. I speed ran this book. My eyes were glued to the pages day in and day out. And I shit you not even a week after finishing this thing, I saw that they announced the trailer and the release date for the movie adaptation. Now, I didn't watch the trailer because I didn't want to spoil anything movie-wise, I guess you could say. The only thing I wanted going into the movie was the knowledge that I had from the book, mixed with what I had pictured in my head for some of the things, people, and events within the movie. And holy shit, was I blown away by this film. I think we're kind of in this weird glaze culture right now where if something is good, it gets this next level jack off saying it's the best thing ever made, which that's what the reviews were basically doing to this movie. I saw this thing on March 20th, and I believe that they released like a pre-release from like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or something like that, and so that's when all the reviews came in. But I went into this thing level-headed. I didn't try to let my internal hype get to me too much because I know what books to movies can do. Sometimes they are shit, sometimes they're really, really good. But man, we got lucky with this one. It was really, really good. I was truly blown away by it. I mean, there were obviously a few differences from the book, which we'll touch on here in a bit, but other than a few things, the movie followed the plot of the book amazingly, and I think even added a few great additions along the way. Now, I'm going to yap about the plot here a little bit, so spoiler warning now. If you want a quick answer to say yes or no, should you go see this movie? Yes, you should go see this movie. This movie absolutely slaps, and I think everyone should go see it. Okay, here comes the spoilers. The movie starts out with our main character, Grace, waking up from a coma. Now, we quickly learn that Grace is aboard a ship, a spaceship, and all of his crew members are dead via a coma. Now, one thing was very clear with Grace. He was very confused on what the fuck was actually happening here. How did he get here? Who were those dead people? Shit, what was his name? Now, that was one of the great keys to this movie because it allowed us to flash back and forth from the present to the past. Now, in the next major scene, we learn that our sun is being consumed by what is described as space algae, in that we launched a mission to go up and collect samples of that space algae. All in the same kind of scene, we learn that Grace is a teacher, a middle school teacher that wrote a paper about life forms being able to live without water. Then there is a woman named Strat who approaches Grace, telling him to basically come with her to learn about the space algae because the world depends on it. And the reason that she approached him in the first place was because of that paper I just mentioned, because these life forms are literally living on the sun, so therefore they kind of came to the conclusion that they must not have water within their system. Now, during those flashbacks I mentioned, we jump from the present to the past. The past basically explains how Grace got aboard the ship, which is called the Hail Mary. At the same time, through these flashbacks, they also explain how they were going to get the Hail Mary to where it needs to be. And where that ship needs to be is where the juice starts coming in, because this is really cool. It needs to be at Tau Ceti, which is 11 light years away from Earth. So basically, humanity needed to find a way to get a ship full of humans to Tau Ceti in one piece. Not really an easy task, to say the least. So basically, throughout the past, they figure out that this space algae, which they called astrophage, has a jet-like propulsion to it. And they figure that out through a sequence of events throughout the past where they basically figured out that it goes to the sun to consume the sun, then it goes all the way back to Venus to reproduce. So with that jet-like propulsion trait, I guess you could say, that was going to be their fuel to get to Tau Ceti. And they had an unlimited source of this stuff because they figured out how it was breeding on Venus, so they can breed it on Earth. Now, jumping back to the ship, he's just kind of figuring out where he is, and he's stumbling towards Tau Ceti. And he had an encounter that truly made this movie. He discovered a different ship by just pure chance, and that ship had a beloved alien called Rocky. Now, this was the main driving point towards this movie. It really was. It wasn't the apocalypse, that Earth was ending, that all these suns were being consumed. No, it was the relationship between Grace and this alien Rocky. And a quick side note, I forgot to mention this and I apologize, but basically Rocky was there for the same reason that Grace was. It's because every single sun inside the galaxy was being consumed by astrophage, just like Grace's was, with the exception of Tal Ceti. So that's why they were there. That's why the Hail Mary was sent there. That's why Rocky was there, was to collect data on why the hell Tal Ceti was not being consumed by the astrophage. Anyways, back to the Rocky Grace connection. It had a grown man crying in theaters, which was me, by the way. And it wasn't your classic "we come in peace" head ass alien looking guy. It wasn't the stereotypical green man coming to abduct you. No. This was straight up a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh card character. He looked like he was inspired by one of those stupid Facebook posts that you see from like some 40-year-old mom saying that they found their inner peace with a bunch of rocks stacked on top of each other. He was literally a rock spider, and he is genuinely one of the most lovable characters to ever hit the big screen. I absolutely love Rocky. The way that this character and Ryan Gosling interacted throughout the movie was absolutely incredible and nothing short of it. From how they learned to communicate with each other, to working with each other, and especially caring about each other. Fast forward, they make a few discoveries, learn more about each other, and when I say discoveries, I mean it. They genuinely work some shit out in the lab, like things that didn't hold your hand, actual experiments that actually made sense. And those discoveries led to a few pretty crazy events that give them the solution towards the problem that they were looking for. Now, those pretty crazy things I just mentioned, I feel like are better saved for the big screen, so please do yourself a favor. If I haven't glazed this movie enough, just go check this thing out. Now, I feel like in terms of spoilers, I'm going to stop here. I feel like I've kind of laid down a bit of groundwork for the movie, and I really do feel like this movie is just better saved for the big screen. So please, please, please go check this out, because it's one of those movies that we get every once in a few years. Now, there are a few more things I wanted to touch on. One, I don't know if this is true, but Rocky was completely an animatronic throughout the movie, and they didn't actually use any green screens along the way. So from my understanding is that all the set pieces that you see throughout the movie are actually built. And when it comes towards filmmaking, I feel like I will give extra brownie points towards something like that, because it just kind of shows the love of the craft, you know? Now, there are a few things that I want to touch on from the book to the movie, and I really do mean this when I say this. None of them are actually bad. None of them at all. These guys really did follow the source material pretty damn good. They stuck to the script, man. It's actually like it works. Cough, cough, Halo, I'm looking at you. Now, looking at the book versus the movie, the book really drags out the beginning section. It really explains a lot more than what we saw in the movie. I mean, it introduced our characters, the potential sun problem with the petroscope line. And sorry, I don't know why I didn't explain this, but the petroscope line is basically just where the astrophage runs. So it's like from the sun to Venus. That's a good example of it. Anyways, it explains the petroscope line, what it was, sending a mission to go and get the astrophage from that petroscope line. You get the point. The beginning of the book was a whole ass thing, and this was literally speed ran in a flashback memory in less than 30 seconds within the movie. Again, nothing bad. The movie was around 3 hours, and they needed to cut some fat off where they could, but hey, listen, directors, have you ever put out an extended cut on this bitch? Expand that first part. Another thing I wish they added was the scene of Antarctica. Yeah, there was a bombing of Antarctica, a nuclear bombing of Antarctica to slow down the cooling process that was brought by the astrophage consuming our sun. And for whatever reason, there was just no sign of this at all. I mean, this was a cool ass topic to touch on. And unlike the beginning flashback segment that I was just talking about, we just saw none of this. I really do think that this could have added an extra layer of intensity to this movie. And much like the Antarctica scene, there was also a scene which I wish they added where they paved the desert. In the book, to get the 2 million kg of astrophage, they needed to work quick, and they developed a method where they paved the Sahara Desert to essentially speed up that process to the max, basically building countless breeding tanks for the astrophage to just do their thing in. I really do wish they included this, because in the movie they did mention the number 2 million kg, but never mentioned how they got to that number so quick. And I really thought this was an interesting side plot. Basically, a good chunk of the Sahara Desert Desert being taken over for the sake of humanity. Pretty damn cool in my opinion. They also mentioned in the book the person paving the way, no pun intended, was some like Australian dude who was like batshit crazy. They had to like pull this dude out of like a life sentence or something to like come on to the project. They were also talking about how like it would be a political shift to anybody who owns land in the Sahara Desert, basically saying like, yeah, they will become the leading manufacturer for fuel basically because they'll have astrophage breeding technology within their own land. I don't know, there was just a lot of cool side plots that came with Antarctica and the Sahara Desert, which I wish they just kind of touched on a little bit. But anyways, another thing I think they missed out on was in the book, Grace actually did try to help Rocky out when he got injured, and Grace got pretty injured from it. And Rocky was very grateful towards Grace because he basically risked his life for him and his own atmosphere. I think adding that could have added that extra layer of that tight bond that they already had in the movie. And one last little nitpick that I wanted to touch on was I didn't like the whole Strat singing part because I feel like that kind of just destroyed the whole point of her character. I feel like her character throughout the film was someone who gave up their humanity, someone making inhumane decisions and tough calls for the sake of humanity, if that makes sense. Basically making her a robot going against probably what she thinks is best personally for the sake of humanity. And I think making her sing in front of everyone should have just been off the table. I don't think that should have happened. Also, I wanted to shout out the new addition, that being the screen room on the Hail Mary, which I don't think was in the book. I don't remember, but my God, it was amazing to see Rocky experience Earth with Grace via those screens. I definitely don't think those screens were in the book because I remember thinking during the book that Rocky will never be able to visit Grace because his atmosphere is just too different, and obviously they live way too far away. But I'm happy he got the next best thing out of it. Other than that, there's not much else to say on my part, and I gotta give this bad boy a 9 out of 10, and I don't think I'm glazing my rating too hard with that one. I really like this movie. I think Rocky and Grace were absolutely amazing in this, and I definitely will be watching this thing again as soon as I can. Anyways, over the past few months, this book has meant a lot to me, and I'm just happy that the movie stuck the landing. So they did my boy good, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.